Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Now, Positively Ernie with Ernie Anastas, a New York TV legend and radio host with great positive stories and interviews.
Thanks, Ernie. You're the best.
And now, here's Ernie.
And hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Positively Ernie is with you right now, and you know I'm always looking for great stories, talking about things that are interesting to you and to your family and to your loved ones, trying to make life better. I like to look for solutions to problems and how to help people cope with a lot of different challenging situations. We look for the positive side to anything, and today I want to talk about something that I think is very interesting. Do I have to tell you how competitive the world of business, of entertainment and information and journalism, all of this that we're doing? I mean, we talk about a plethora of material out there, all the cable channels. We're talking about the internet, social media, magazines, newspapers, you name it, radio, podcasting. It's just incredible. But let me tell you something. There are some wonderful places where you can go to get information, and they're succeeding. And one of them happens to be my guest today, because she is the publisher of Preferred Health magazine. And I want you to say hello to Angelina Cappiello. Angelina, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me on, Ernie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you know what? A lot of people say, a print is not doing well, but you are doing exceptionally well. Your magazine is online. I mean, what are we, 7,000 people online? No, 7,000. Wait, you're in a lot of doctors' offices. 7,000 offices.
Correct. It's actually up to 15,000 doctors.
Wow, that's incredible. And as far as online goes, I had the note 100,000 online.
Coming to the website, directly to the website, and that doesn't include our social media. So we're really proud of that.
This is fantastic. You're doing so well. How long have you been the publisher?
Okay, so we've started Preferred Health magazine back in 2017. So we're fairly new. It's a young magazine. And I started this magazine with the thought of just highlighting some really great doctors and what they're doing and kind of all the good they're putting out into the world of medicine. And then, of course, it just, spiraled. It had to be more for me because I just have this background in journalism, and for me it had to be more. So it's like we couldn't just highlight them. We had to talk about health in general, and so we've really been lucky.
And what you're doing, Angelina, and I started to talk about this at the very beginning, you're providing uplifting information. You're providing uplifting stories, and you're helping people, which is the greatest service that you can have. I applaud you for that. It's terrific.
I appreciate that, Ernie. And it's kind of similar to your show, of course. And I think we have similar backgrounds in the fact that we've had to report on a lot of the bad that's gone on in the world every day. And so being able to report about the good is a great turn of events because for me, health is just obviously so important.
I'm glad you're saying that because, yes, having been, reporting the news for some 40 years in New York, and you're a journalist as well, we know that these stories are important, that people need to know what's going on out there. We would never censure anything. But I think that it's important for us to have a balance, and that's exactly what we're both doing. So you've got these great stories. How do you decide? I mean, you got to do some research to find out what people are really interested in because you don't want to be too repetitive. So how do you find the kinds of stories that people say, I'm glad that I read this story. Thanks for doing it.
Okay. Well, listen, that's what I love hearing actually from our readers is that we're reaching out to a variety of people, whether you're, the young adult or the middle age or the senior, we have it for everyone. But I have to applaud. I have a really great team of writers and reporters. And so we get together and we're of all ages ourselves. And so we do our research and we have people reaching out to us also wanting to tell their story. And so that's how we start our process.
I love it. Let me ask you to dig in now, okay? Because I want you to think about some of the stories that you've done, stories that you found really interesting and had good reaction from them, and you kind of fill me in terms of how it came about and what you did.
Okay, so off the top of my head here, I remember speaking with actress Jennifer Beals. And what I found interesting is here you are, she's beautiful. She's been in so many, shows, popular, shows and films on TV.
Sure.
And she shared, and what's also important to say is that people are trusting Preferred Health Magazine with their journey, which I truly appreciate.
Sure.
So she shared her journey. She went to get a stress test done. As you will, you're running on a treadmill, usually at the doctor's office. But for women, surprisingly, you would think it's a little different. So she had a humiliating experience of having to run without a bra on.
Oh.
And you would think we've come so far, this day and age that wouldn't be the case. Mm-hmm. And so she took her journey and her experience and created a bra for women who were getting this test done, where the leads would be placed correctly and they wouldn't have to worry about, false readings. And so things like that and people like that are just kind of like a rare breed. They're taking their journey, they're turning it into something positive, and they're putting it out there into the world to help others. And so many people actually that we've interviewed are like that. And it just makes you feel so good about not only that they shared their personal story and their journey, but I learned so much more about the human spirit and kind of, the capabilities that we all have within us.
Yes.
To move it forward and to help the world in general. So
I like that story a lot, because it's entrepreneurish in a way, but at the same time, creating something that helps people. And I think the word spirit has a lot to do with it. That when you really are passionate and you care about what you're doing, that you're going to come up with something good. And I think profiling people like that, wonderful. And I'm sure that, in doctors' offices, when people are picking up that magazine, because, you're sitting there sometimes for a little longer period than you would like, because that's just the way it is. But you want to be able to read something that is uplifting. The last thing you want to read is about something that's depressing, because sometimes, there are magazines that have, not just magazines, but anywhere, that have stories that can bring you down. And make you feel like, wow, do I have that? Should I be worrying about this? Right? You don't want that.
We talk about topics like that. So let's say we'll talk about, a rare disease or something that, is happening in the world with COVID and whatnot. Those obviously hard times. But we kind of take the route of solving the problem.
Yes.
This is what you can do to help yourself. This is a holistic way of dealing with this issue.
Mm-hmm.
This is another great doctor who's maybe has this new technology that you might be interested in.
Yeah.
So it's really about education, and that's what I'm trying to put forth.
Angelina, one of the words that always stands out for me, and that's hope. When people have a sense of hope, when they believe that there's an opportunity to make it better, I think that's really having that mission that you're talking about. And that's what you're doing. In the world of publishing, in order to stay competitive, now you've created a niche. There's a special market that you've got there. How do you keep it fresh? That's the key. How do you keep it fresh? Now, you do certain kinds of stories and then you say, okay, what kind of a different angle can I take? Because if you don't do that, then it becomes a little stale. And then people, think you're a little too predictable. I've always liked the line, you want to be consistent with the element of surprise.
Right.
People want to know what you are and what they can expect from you. But at the same time, they want a little surprise once in a while. Oh, I didn't realize they were saying this or doing this or asking for that. Do you ask people for story ideas?
Yeah, we haven't gone down this road yet, but I do like the idea of reaching out to the audience. I have put it out there on social media before, but mostly we kind of just do our research here between myself and the team.
Yeah.
Our motto is keeping health hip. And we want to do that. And how we really get to do it is just by, reaching out and getting these inspiring stories, but also interviewing doctors who are able to tell us about these new innovations in medicine.
Yeah.
I think that's so exciting to know and to learn about, because as a journalist myself, education, again, I am constantly learning. I don't come onto this magazine as a physician. I come here with the same curiosity as my readers. And so when me and my team get together, we're all living in this world together and dealing with different issues and, seeing what's out there. And so that's how we're able to keep health hip and interesting and, full of surprise. So.
As two journalists just talking right now and forgetting that we're even doing, a podcast together. But if we were just thinking out loud and saying, that kind of, I don't want to call it a Dear Abby article, but I mean, something where people actually have questions that you answer. And they could be very interesting questions, something different. I think people would enjoy reading that. I would like that. Every time.
I would like that too.
Yeah, I would like
that too. And that might be, maybe that's something we'll do for the new year. We have a great columnist, Melissa Castellano. She gets to share her experiences on different topics, and whether it's mental health or dealing with a child, with special needs. She's great, and so we like to share her column, but I think a Q&A from the audience or from the readers would be fantastic.
I think it could be fun. I really do. I think that could be fun. Now, what about, there's always always a chance to say, how about the video aspect of what you do? You've got this magazine. You're getting great exposure. It's online, and it's physically in a lot of doctors' offices. Have you ever thought about doing something from a visual standpoint?
Well, we have the Talking Points podcast show.
Okay.
And so that is something that I do with some of our cover interviews that we have. So that's the podcast is also on YouTube. So that's my video point there, but I haven't thought about maybe doing something like you're doing over here.
Yeah.
But I think, the topic of health, though, I think is just something that will never get old. Obviously, it's the most important thing that we can be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a personal venture, and there's never a dull moment.
Absolutely.
As we age.
Angelina, when I try to do a lot of stories on 77 WABC on a day-to-day basis, many of the stories are related to health, and particularly with children. And parents are very concerned about their children and social media and being on that phone too long and the problems that it creates. I'm sure you've done stories about that and have probably gotten a lot of reaction from it.
Absolutely. We did a story. Actually, it was on Pix 11 News. I was interviewed for the story where we spoke about social media. We spoke about, binge watching television.
Right.
We spoke about all these different things that are now a part of our daily life, and without even realizing how they're affecting us emotionally.
Exactly.
So, we spoke about that. And I think these topics are going to be ongoing as studies come further and further along. We'll be able to speak even deeper note about that.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Plan on flying? In order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID. Learn how to get your real ID today at tsa.gov/real ID or visit your local DMV.
You know, when we're talking about the general subject of health, I think mental health is a very important topic because, you know, we're aware of the difficulties that many people are facing. You talked about young people, and that's a serious problem. And it goes into every age group, every demographic you can think about. I think that that's one of the most important topics, and I'm sure you give that a lot of attention. People are looking for ways to be able to find some help, to express themselves someplace, and to get the right kind of help. There have been a lot of stories about people going online and getting misinformation.
Right.
And I think that you probably have been dealing with that sort of thing to make sure that all of your content is really well researched. And right? So tell me a little bit more about, you know, how you do that and your staff.
Yeah, of course. Well, first, of course, we only interview accredited, you know, board certified physicians throughout our nation. But also we like to speak to people who are maybe creating a different avenue or a different platform for people to feel, you know, that they're safe in telling, you know, and talking to someone, but also that it kind of plays into who they are. I mean, we have to think about how far we've come with things like virtual reality. So when I spoke to Jewel, the singer-songwriter, it was, you know, great to speak with her, but she was creating an app, a virtual reality app, where that I feel like appeals to obviously a younger generation. And as children or as young adults are able to come onto this platform and express themselves more freely, you know, they'll have like an avatar that they can, you know, go ahead and create for themselves, and they create this world for themselves. There needs to be more platforms like that just create a safe space. And in that space to have responsible, you know, physicians or responsible, you know, people handling that space. So that way this can actually help people instead of just being some kind of kitschy new app.
Right.
We need just, you know, people like that and platforms like that to appeal to just a wider variety of the
Wonderful.
public.
Angelina, let me ask you, because I know you've got a very good positive outlook on life. And I can tell, you know,
I try.
No, you do. Well, we all have to try at that, right? There are days when, you know, you have to deal with whatever it happens to be. But I'm going to ask you, you know, what keeps you positive? What kind of role models have you had in your life? And what has given you this sense of wanting to do good to help people out and to stay uplifting?
Oh, gosh. You know, my mother said to me, God rest her soul.
Yeah.
When I was younger, when I was probably going through like hard times as a teenager, and she told me this one thing. She's like, you know, I mean, we probably heard it in different terms, but, you know, don't judge anyone. You never know what anyone is going through personally.
Right.
And so, you know, take everyone not by what they are wearing, by what they look like, by, you know, whatever, but just, you know, see the good, try to find the good in everyone. And, you know, my mom, she's just such a sweet woman, you know, and I always thought, oh, she's so kind, my mom. Like, you know, the world's tougher than that, but it's always stuck with me. And it really is the truth. I mean, we're all, what I like to say, God's children, whether you believe that or not, but I believe that wholeheartedly that we're all made from something good, and maybe we're all just trying to get back there, back to that place, like, you know, living in this world. And so that I think is something that keeps me going. I truly believe in putting out good, that good will come back to you, and that the more we can do to help humankind, the better we'll all be.
You know, you were touching on spirituality, and that's what you're talking about. And that's recognizing, you know, that there's good everywhere around us, and that we're here for a purpose. We're here for a reason. And, you know, it's interesting. I saw a survey some time ago where young people especially were asked, who are your heroes? Who do you admire most in life? And the number one answer, Angelina, was parents. You mentioned your mom, okay? And I could talk about my mother and my father and grandparents as well. And it's always close to the heart, where you spent most of your time, you know, growing up, and the influences you've had. So parents are very, very important in life, and we have that responsibility to be, you know, good parents, good guardians, and good role models too. I'm sure you agree.
100%. I agree 100%, Ernie. I think the biggest, most important thing we can do for our children is set the example. And that will carry them the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Like, whether we're going through hard times ourselves or not, if we can show them that how to be resilient,
yes,
and how to get through that, I mean, they're going to be better for it.
Absolutely.
So the role of the parent is crucial.
Very important. Now, Angelina, people who are listening and watching are saying, okay, I'd like to get in touch with you. I'd like to get more information on the magazine, how I can watch, how I can listen, how I can read. Let's get some of that information out there so people will know. How do they reach you? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, you can, of course, go to our website, www.preferredhealthmagazine.com. Our podcast show is called Talking Points with Preferred Health Magazine, and that's available on Spotify, Google, YouTube. I think we have channels on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We're everywhere. LinkedIn. We're everywhere.
You're everywhere, right? And you're enjoying it. That's the important thing. I have one final question that I usually ask my guests, and that is if you could pass along a little piece of advice to a newborn child, something they could hold on to at some point in life and say, wow, thank you, Angelina, for sharing that with me. What advice would you have for a newborn baby today?
For a newborn baby?
Yeah.
That you are a blessing. That you should always know your worth in this world and never let anyone tell you otherwise.
I like that. You have value. You have purpose. That's so important. When I've gone out to speak to children, talking about some of my books, especially one that was written for, elementary kids in the different school systems, I traveled throughout New York. And I talk to kids in the middle school, and I start talking about their purpose in life. And I remind them of what a teacher told me one time. She said, whatever you enjoy doing will be the avenue to your success. And I asked these kids, I said, what do you want to do what do you love doing? And they just light up. And when they know that there's only one of them, no one has their fingerprints or their eyes. They just feel so unique. And it's so important for us to let these kids know, as you just pointed out with your advice to a baby, let them know that how special they are, how different they are, and how they celebrate their life. Very important.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we know just being on this world for the last 50 years that they're going to come against adversity. And so if we can just keep the heart pure.
Yeah, I like that.
They'll be okay.
Angelina Cappiello, you are terrific, and Preferred Health Magazine is doing great. I congratulate you. Looking forward to be on the cover in January. We did a nice interview on that, which I really enjoyed. You're doing great work, and I hope you're looking forward to all the good things now and also down the road in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure speaking with you.
What a joy, Angelina. Congratulations. All good things to you and your family, okay?
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show today. We had a great time. I'll catch you next time. And stay positive, everybody. Bye-bye.